Latin America is becoming a major hub for Shia groups, maybe to practice, to plan, to do drug trade, gain resources, rebuild, you know, to
Okay, but
govern
I
actually. Yeah.
understand the power division that they will try to achieve. I agree with that. But when you said that lots of terrorists is going to come from Africa to Western nations, I'm trying to understand exactly why, because they're not really Muslims. I don't know if you've seen them, but also those who identified as Muslims, they have long years of tribal tradition that is kind of witchcraft type. The other Muslims, they're not, I mean, they're Muslims, sure, but they're Muslims that snort cocaine with gunpowder mix because they think that it will
Right.
make bullet bounce off them. So I'm not kidding. I wish I would. It's a real thing.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, but that doesn't make them non-Muslim.
Doing drugs and believing in black magic.
Yeah.
I think that it points to the fact that they're not ready yet to Islamize all the way. And maybe if you catch somebody like this and tell him, "Hey, listen, you're gonna explode yourself in a foreign country," he will say to you, "Huh?
Oh, I think they're very willing to do shit like that. They have been. They do that all the time in Africa.
Yeah, but that's
I
because
mean,
it's their thing."
just because their influence is multifactorial, they have different sources of influence on what they do and what they believe. Islam is one of them. It doesn't mean it's the only one, right? They have their own local beliefs, their own local rituals, their own local customs for sure, but Islam is a major factor. And the thing is that a lot of people don't understand the purpose of terrorist attacks. Like when you see like a major terrorist attack happen in somewhere in Spain or Germany, organized by Al Qaeda or ISIS, a lot of people think like, oh, this is their religion. They're doing this because they want to glorify their God or whatever, right? But it's actually a lot more strategic than that. It's a marketing campaign, right? It's a marketing campaign for where you are. Like people, for a lot of people, it doesn't make sense. Like if you're doing your thing in the Middle East or Africa, just do that. If you come to Europe and blow something up, aren't you inviting foreign powers to come meddle in your growth strategy in the Middle East or Africa? Just focus on whatever you're doing there, and
No,
don't
but
bother
Allah is
other
with
people.
you. But Allah is with you, so you can't lose, obviously. So you
No, but
take a plane and you drive it into the Global Trade Center, and what happened? They invaded this whole freaking country. But I think that he
yeah,
didn't expect this.
no, I think it's actually a lot more strategic and smarter than that. It's not. It's. I mean, and on the face of it, it's for the sake of Allah, but you have to understand a lot of these organizations will go extinct if they're not being pragmatic, and the individuals might not be pragmatic, but the emergent property of different sections of these different minds within this organization working means that only the methods and the beliefs that will cause the survival of their group will last and everything else will go extinct. It's kind of like a Darwinian model. And I think when you do a terrorist attack, it's kind of like a marketing that we're alive, we're active, come join us. It's basically a recruitment call, like
Right.
showing relevance, demonstrating power. So for example, if you're ISIS and you want to, I don't know, compete with Al Qaeda, you have to show that we could do stuff that Al Qaeda can't. When was like you could show, like, let's say your terrorist group A, B, and C, right? If B and C haven't blown anything up in North America or Europe for the past 5 years, but we have done four explosions in Europe and two explosions in America and Canada, we're basically demonstrating to people who are trying to join an Islamic group or trying to fund an Islamic group or work financially with an Islamic group that we are capable, we're active, we have capabilities, we have resources. So we're the brand. We're the brand to work with. Also, we're the brand. If your own terrorist group wants to become affiliated with a brand, we're the brand to be associated with. Like you might be just a local unknown Islamic group, you could just now come pledge allegiance to us and become. kind of like a franchise of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. So if you line up a whole bunch of like people and execute them and record it and put it on the internet, is because it impresses a lot of people. Like, look at this. Like these guys are doing things. Like, we should be working with them. I mean, even if you don't believe in the ideology, right, and you're just like, I don't know, a drug dealer, you're like, okay, these people must have a lot of resources to be able to do this stuff, right? So in that region, if I need to get this drug passed from point A to point B, these are the people that I need to be dealing with, so they could charge me some money to help me provide security or allow me to pass it through, because they seem to be the rulers of this area. That's how that works.
So jihadi fun.
Yeah.
There was a lot of jihadi attempts this week.
Where? Tell me
Um,
where.
Okay, so people wrote on the platform, they wrote that there was something in Canada and a couple of
Oh
jihadis
shit.
trying to kidnap somebody or someone. And there was in Manchester, they caught him red-handed on the way to do something also just this week. You already know that they caught him after
Yeah.
the Bondi. So yeah. And where else? Oh, and in America, they also stopped something before it got the chance to happen. And beyond that, just the regular anti-Semitic assaults, attacks, beatings that you see, it increases. Actually, I had an argument with somebody online the other day, and he threatened me. So I just as an Israeli, it's like, okay, man, come here, good luck. Fuck you. Good luck. Just come here if you're for real. Step into the most armed nation in the world and do whatever you want. Okay. And what he said knocked me on my fucking ass. What he said is, "No, bitch. I'm going to beat up Jews on my where I can, not where I can't." And
What
and
country was
then,
this person in?
Oh shit.
Yeah.
but it was he understood my psychology in a second. In a second. I mean, the fact that he can beat somebody up very far away from me without. Because if I was in front of him, of course, it's like, come on, let's go for the party. But it gets bad, man. It's real bad.
This is why Jews need to go to Israel. That's the
So,
best place for them to be.
mm,
So, what was the discussion that you had with him, and how did he get this angry?
it was all around the Nick Fuentes fiasco. And yeah, I pretty much just spat in the chat over there. It was a pretty hostile channel. Spat everything that we talk about around in here. Some of the things that the ideas that we have in here are pretty good. I don't remember what it was exactly that I wrote, but it was something about Catboy, and then I just moved to say that basically the guy is a lefty in a suit and a
Wait,
liar.
so these were not even Muslims? These were just Nick Fuentes fans?
Yes,
And he threatened.
I don't know if he was a
He,
Muslim in real life. I mean,
yeah, but just a Nick Fuentes fan.
yes, I think so. Yeah,
And he threatened Jews. He threatened to kill
to
Jews
beat
where
up
he could
Jews.
find to
Yeah,
beat up Jews.
yeah,
That is so fucking messed up. You know, it starts like
and
this,
that's
like
his punishment to me for
to
being insulted.
you.
Yeah, understand?
Did that affect you? Did they feel like you're going to be responsible for another Jew's? Did you feel like bad that?
I don't know if it's Bentley. Check it. I didn't want to check. I shut the fuck up in a minute. Yeah, I didn't say a thing. It
Mhm.
worked.
Oh my god! The fact that that works, that to me suggests that we're going to see actually this happening in the future. Like I think we might be in the beginning phases of this, just the ideas of it forming, and
Yeah.
then soon we're going to get to the point where actually it will be put in, words actually going to be put into action. That's we're about to see. I
Uh,
think
I'm,
all of
I'm
this rhetoric is not going to be without consequences. At some point we're going to move into the next phase.
yeah. I generally don't remember in my lifespan a time when it was this bad. I really think that we are close to how people view Jews in the 1930s, 20s. I think we're pretty much there. It's pretty bad. And
Wasn't it worse back then? Because when I read about how it was back then, I don't know actually. Maybe you're right.
I don't really know because, today we also live in another world. So people self censors most of the things that they really mean. And when they don't, maybe there's something much worse that he's not saying. But I mean,
I think that back then there wasn't that much pushback. Like if you go to the 1930s, for example, like if you consider Jews to be horrible, there weren't that many people saying like, "What the fuck? That's disgusting. How do you think that?" There wasn't that many people who would respond in like it wasn't that big of a taboo back then. I mean, right now we still, I think the vast majority of the people today still don't believe that Jews are evil. And I think it was the opposite back then. That's the difference.
did you see this reporter who went undercover to the university and started recruiting people for Hamas?
No, where is this?
Well,
What the hell?
I saw it today and think I'll look for the link just now. So yeah, he went undercover and he's like, "Yeah, we're hiring for Hamas and stuff, and we're adjusting ourselves to the West." And people are like, "Oh, right
In,
on, let's get those Jews."
where in United States?
It was an American accent.
People were celebrating this? Okay, this is going crazy, man. How any suggestions on how to respond to all this all this shit? Like I don't know, like Musa, do you have any suggestions? Samantha, do you have any suggestions?
I think people only give up luxury beliefs when they, like, can no longer be a luxury. It
In
means,
this
like, as
case.
long as it doesn't hurt them to like, think badly of Jews, they're gonna continue to think badly of Jews, like, because 'cause they're not being harmed by it.
I mean, doesn't these type of views have consequences in United States? Like makes you unhireable. Like you have that now on your record.
No, you can
You
be
should
a
be able.
university head of university with these views.
Hmm. So
Yeah,
what
I
is the
think it's
solution? Go
it's
on, go on.
also important to accurately define the problem. And anti-Semitism on the left is different, on the far left is different than it is on the far right. Like progressives tend to be very anti-Israel, but they don't hold the same hostility towards individual Jews like in the United States. Whereas like the Fuentes group, they they're just against Jews, period, not just against Israel, but also perhaps even more so Jews in the United States, for what that's worth.
That's actually, you're right. I've noticed that about a lot of right leaning people. I was listening to Nick Fuentes today, and let me know what you guys think about this. All right, so here, guys, I want you to tell me what you think about this, okay? Because I was listening to Nick Fuentes, and he was talking about Ben Shapiro's speech at Turning Point USA, and he was saying like a lot of people expect him to come out completely against Ben Shapiro's point, right? Ben Shapiro was basically attacking Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Steve Bannon, Candace Owens, Megan Kelly. All of those people were being attacked. And Nick Fuentes was one of the people who were being attacked and named and called out on Ben Shapiro's show. So you would assume that Nick Fuentes will come on his show and take a position against him. And he kind of did. But then he switched into another mode by saying, so Asi, I know you're looking for the link, but listen to this because I really want to hear your opinion. He said that, you know what, I'm not against Ben Shapiro. what he's doing makes complete sense and logical for his people. I mean, this is how he thinks, right? So his idea is that I'm not anti-Jewish. I'm not even anti Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is doing the logical thing to protect his kind, to protect his actual country, which is Israel, to protect his the Jewish people. He thinks that America is for white Christians and Muslims have places where they could protect Islam and their way of life and being Muslims. Jews have Israel, but white people don't have that. You need to take a position against Ben Shapiro, not because Ben Shapiro is doing the wrong thing, but because Ben Shapiro is doing the right thing for his people and he's looking after the interests of his people. So white people need to also do that against him for their people. That's how he looks at it.
He's misreading the situation as usual because he's prejudiced, so he cannot see clearly. I think Ben
Yeah, I know.
Shapiro represents
Yeah.
just the normal conservatives. I mean, if I take out the gossip part and stuff, his principles are just normal conservative principles. Just normal. He's just a normal conservative.
Wait,
I'm sorry to say,
who?
but
No, I agree with you guys, but I agree with Ben Shapiro most, other than when he talks about God and religion. I agree with Ben Shapiro most of the time on politics, on the economy, especially. I agree with Ben Shapiro. I just disagree with him on his religious views. And I don't think, I think Ben Shapiro cares a lot about America. I actually think Ben Shapiro cares more about America than he cares about Israel.
I also think he
I,
tries his best to take the religion out and make logical principles.
but it's still interesting to see Nick's point of view because I think that's very dangerous because it does come off as not hateful. It comes off as like, we don't hate Jews. We're just competing against them. They're doing the best thing for their people, and we're competing against them by doing the best. We should be competing against them by doing the best thing for our people. It's not, in fact, he thinks that I admire them because they have clearly defeated us. He said, I'm not disappointed in Ben because Ben is doing what Ben should be doing. He says, I'm disappointed in white people for why we're not doing the same thing. That's his message. And this, to me, this is the most dangerous form of anti Semitism because it's really sellable as something that seems not hateful. You want to say something?
No, I was just saying yes to what you said. I agree. He's misreading what Ben is about. Ben is about American conservatism, and he's
You're right.
presenting, the general conservative American, who is religious but doesn't want to argue making religious dogma. They want to argue that their principles are actually good for society and so on. So everything Ben argues is just logical unless you're not a conservative. Nick is not a conservative. Tucker is not a conservative. That's why they find him so annoying. Beside the fact that he's Jewish, but his principles are annoying to them. He believes in the Constitution. He believes in free markets. He believes in, freedom of religion. He doesn't hate people based on race. He says many times that, your race does not matter. What matters is you. And they hate that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where is he getting America is supposed to be a white nation from? Like, nothing, like, America did not become so great. Like, where is this getting in this white identity from? Like, America is supposed to be for white Europeans. Like, where I'm trying to
Because
find
I can tell
where
you, because he
what.
was de facto a European country, with some people who are not, but that's the way they feel. Even if it could, it's not exactly correct. But it's a bit like how Israelis feel. This is we feel like it's a Jewish
but
country.
if you read the American Constitution, it almost cannot function as a racist
Of course, yeah,
constitution.
but,
Yeah,
but I'm talking about how it feels in the real,
but
in real
I mean,
life. People don't read the Constitution; they just leave, right? And they
but even with
experience.
Israel, where which a lot of people call a Jewish nation state, right? They they have 20% Arabs, and they're not trying to get rid of them, and they
No,
allow them into politics. They
but
allow them into the highest paying jobs. What I'm saying is that countries that have become great, they didn't have a race test
I
for who
agree,
gets to be a citizen of that country. But go
of
on.
course.
What are you saying?
No, I'm saying in Israel it's different. The Arabs that live here have lived here when we arrived, so it's a different. We can't
Well, what
kick
does that
them
matter?
out
Like,
morally. It's different.
I
Where
know, but my point
where
is
the
that
Nick is
there's
talking about immigration, and that which is by choice, right?
but countries like America and Israel become great countries because of a set of values, not because of ethnicity.
Yes,
And
he
these
doesn't see it
people
that
have
way.
not, yeah,
I
but
agree,
they
but he
should
doesn't see it
demonstrate.
that way.
They should demonstrate like, because he's trying to come off as rational, he should demonstrate that what is it about whiteness that makes America so great. America became great because of a set of values, not because of anything else.
Yeah, but he
I
would argue
mean,
that those values are white inherently.
Well,
That
European,
he's
yes,
racist. That's what he
yes,
would say.
he's right to a degree, but he's
No,
also
he's not
forgetting that.
right to a degree.
I think if you bring people from
it gives one
Pakistan, then you're gonna have problems.
Okay.
Uh,
Also, if you bring
because
people
of their
from
shitty values.
also
yeah,
if you
Because of
bring
the
people from like from Liberia,
yes.
but it's because it's retarded places. If you go to any place who's kind of nice,
I'm
race
trying
does not
to.
play such a big role.
I don't want to. I'm trying to represent his ideas, not mine exactly. Okay, but
right.
Yeah,
that's
that yeah, okay. So in that case, I get it. Yeah, he's a racist. Yeah, that's what he would
yeah.
say.
But he
Definitely.
forgets that he shouldn't be in America either. He's included himself in the party that excludes him by definition. But this is, by the way, a thing that happens when you don't feel confident about your identity in the society you're in. You try to play like you are even better than them at being white. You're the ultimate, you know. He's trying to cope basically with the fact that his name is Fuentes and he's not part of this white thing that he it's a coping mechanism. That's my opinion about him. He chose a
um
wrong path. He could have been a very successful comedian. Probably have a chat show by now.
I, I'm trying to see things for them from their perspective. Like, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, even to the point where saying, like, I'm trying to completely wipe the board completely clean and try to assume that anything could be right and we could be wrong. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
that's the right position. Okay, but they have to demonstrate that.
Okay.
Like,
So I'll
let's
tell
say,
you
like,
how they do
I
it.
don't want to just call them racist and be like, they're racist, racism is bad, so they're wrong. But they're making the claim that America is America because of, it's a great country because of whiteness. Even if that's racist, let's be charitable and say, yeah, it's racist, but it might be correct. But how would they make that point? Because to me, that's so
I
retarded
can
that I
still
need to
man.
see
I
what's,
can still
yeah, okay,
man.
steelman their position.
So they will say. I mean, none of it is proof, right? Proof exists only in maths. We can only have evidence and then weigh the evidence. So they'll look at evidence and say, well, look, places like Sweden were very calm and peaceful, very low crime. They brought in immigrants. Look what's happening. They say, look at London. They say these people, and they include Jews and Muslims, are very collectivist. They're very united. They work for their interests against ours in many cases, and they're pushing their agenda. They're getting in with the politicians through organizations like APAC and CARE and all sorts of stuff. And they are changing our country. They don't believe in our constitution. If they'll get a bigger mandate, they'll change the way the country runs. We don't like their culture. They do terrible work compared to the white man. They don't have the same values that we have. They don't appreciate hard work like we do. They steal, and then they go and fetch evidence to cover that. So they should, stories like the Somalis stealing money, stories about Epstein, stories
He
about
actually
all.
defended the Somalis, this idiot.
Yes, but I'm talking in general the way they think, not just him, but
Okay,
the
but but
general
but
vibe.
Musa, the thing is that all of those points are correct. My point is that how do you know it comes from their ethnicity and not for their from their culture.
They say, well,
Like
it
you,
seems apparent when you look at it. It seems apparent
well,
that
I'm looking at it, but you're okay. I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing an inferior culture. Okay, I'm not seeing an inferior ethnicity. I'm seeing an inferior culture. So
for
if
them
they
that
are
is
saying
meaningless distinction between the two. So okay, you see a distinction. For them, it's meaningless because they say, okay,
no,
well, the
it's not
culture.
meaningless because it's not meaningless. Here, I would argue it's not meaningless because culture can be changed, ethnicity can't. So that's why this is so important.
They're saying that
The,
in the numbers that these people come, you cannot change the culture.
But
And he's
but
saying the culture
but
is very strong. The Islamic culture is very strong. They believe the Jews are all together
but
as
that
well,
but
and they
that's not
think
what they
that.
would say.
it's
Because
not
if
just
if they said that, you're going to see.
it's not just against the people who come from the outside. He also has a full baggage on black people who are living in America, and he criticized their culture as inferior culture 24/7.
Same reasons. You say, look at this crime stats, look at how they're living, look at.
Okay, cool. So this part, at least for Armin, I can dismantle and say that it's a lie. He's completely racist and delusional because what he refers to as black culture was developed from cracker culture in places like Arizona and around the Mississippi. So it's basically white, and he's retarded.
Well, he will argue that if you look at the stats for African countries, they're even worse.
What he refers to as black modern black culture that he so despise
No, I
is
know.
one on one exactly the cracker
No,
culture from the
that's Thomas
Mississippi.
Sowell as well. He said this, and he wrote a book about this, right? But what Nick will argue back, or people like him will argue back and say, "Well, look at Africa. It's the same situation. So it's not because they adopted, some white culture. Thomas Sowell is coping, he will say, and he will say that we don't want to be like
So they
Africa,
remembered the culture from Africa for 400 years. Okay.
right? So
Without
they
knowing how
think.
to read and write for about 400 years.
Yes, according to them, that's the way they think because they see the ethnicity and culture as connected, and it's
Okay.
very hard.
Okay. So that's
It's
my
very
point.
hard to
It's racist and
dismantle it.
retarded.
Yes, but saying that it's racist, that like Armin said, which you saw at the Piers Morgan when he called him a racist, he just laughed it off because okay, so I'm racist,
So
but
you are biased to anything that you say, and you can't be taken seriously because you are biased to any color, any culture, anything. The problem is you, boo boo.
you're making from their point of view, you're making a moral argument where they're just making the
I'm
way
not
they
saying
see it.
it's not a moral argument. It's an argument that say that if he's so flawed that he can't understand the basic thing that the color does not equal IQ or less melatonin does not equal less IQ or so I mean, how can I take you seriously from that point on?
Well, the
So
IQ thing
so
is
the
also
argument the
is
argument
also
would
actually
be,
true, which is a problem when you go to argue with them because they will pull out.
It's not just calling him racist, it's calling him racist and back it up and say that he's racist and making his perspective so
yeah, but
biased that
okay,
he
So he will show you that the average IQ of black people is lower than the average IQ of white people. So what do you do then? You could say, okay, you're racist. That's why he doesn't like the Jews because they're supposed to have
yeah,
eyes.
he doesn't deny that. He says that they are smart and they're competing with us, and they're taking our resources, and they are and respect them as a formidable enemy. That's what he
Correct.
says. So
Yeah.
like, yeah.
so the black Jews, according to him, are superiors to the non-black Jews. They're not inferior because they are black. They
No,
are
he will
the
probably
Jewish part is
their people. I don't know exactly what Nick would tend to say, but those I know what they say is that those are
Converts.
examples of race mixing, which brings down the average IQ.
so we used to be even more geniuses a few years ago.
So he says like if the pure Jews are probably that's why you need to protect your people, because by mixing with the wrong people, you're going to bring down and hurt your average IQ. That's what he would say.
So just calling him racist doesn't really do it. They'll say, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
fine.
they love it actually if you call them racist. They were like,
That you saw it
if
on Piers Morgan.
so, but here's the thing: I would want to know how they can tell that these lower IQ numbers is because of ethnicity and not because of the environment. That's what I would ask. Like, how do they know
it's
it's environment?
impossible to know, and the research on
Yeah,
this
it's
has been.
impossible to know. So how are they making these claims? And also, when I said, when you told them, how could you know it's from not from the culture but from the ethnicity, and you said that it doesn't matter to them. I think it does matter to them because they do say it's about ethnicity, and I say,
No, I
to
say
me, it's
because they say culture. Sorry, just to explain, they say that culture is a consequence of ethnicity. Therefore, the
yeah,
distinction does not.
but they haven't demonstrated that, right? Yeah, I know, but they have to, like, again, because they're trying to act like it's so rational. That's just a claim without any evidence. And if I say, well, if it's only culture and not ethnicity, it could be changed. Your response was then, yeah, but in large numbers, if they come here in large numbers, you cannot change that. I actually agree with that point, right? So yeah, culture can be changed, but if you have mass migration instead of like small filtered regulated migration, then yeah, that culture cannot be changed. But given that it's culture and not ethnicity, then that opens the door to small selected migration with the opportunity to assimilation,
If
right?
America had
and,
small
and
selective migration, Nick would have no audience. This, you see what I mean?
yeah, but also that's not their point. They wouldn't say like, oh, even if it's culture in large numbers we cannot change them. I think they would insist that it's not culture, it's their ethnicity. And another point that they
They will
need to
say
be,
that their
yeah,
ethnicity will bring that culture with it, and
yeah,
you can point
but
that
then
also to.
if the culture is the problem, you need to be filtering for the culture, not for the ethnicity. And once you filter for the culture, if certain ethnic people will get filtered out more because of their association with that culture,
But how
then
do it's hard to filter for culture. It's very
no, it's not.
easy to filter for ethnicity, or easier.
No, I mean, it's people have a track record. People, you can see people's contribution. Like, if I have a university professor that is well recognized by different universities all around the world, should I be, and he's black, I be like, oh, okay, we're not letting you in. Like, should I filter that guy
You
because
mean
he's
like
black? Like,
the woman that was in charge of, is it Yale? She is Egyptian and she allowed anti-Semitic
no, no,
bringing their way of
that's
thinking, right?
no, that's inferior culture. I could identify
She's like the head of the university. She's not like
yeah,
someone they
but
pick. She's very selected.
no, no, yeah, yeah,
Did
yeah,
you
but
see her?
okay, you wanted me to answer, or do you want to just interrupt me?
Sorry,
Because I haven't
just
answered
to
yet.
complete it, do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, I know what you're
Okay.
referring to, but do you understand that when I talk about culture, it includes views like anti-Semitism, which if somebody demonstrates, you could filter for that as well. If somebody is demonstrating
How?
anti-Semitism, that's a culture that you should be filtering for.
They're saying we don't want any of this. We don't want to deal with it. Why should we deal
So
with
if
it?
a black
Let's
guy
let's just
comes and he's like educated and contributing member of society and also a big fan of Israel, should we like be like, oh, sorry, you're black? Like, obviously not. I mean, to them,
first
if you're a fan
first
of
if he's a
Israel,
fan of
I
Israel, they don't like him already.
yeah, no, but you know what I'm talking about. If that's the case, then they should like that woman. They're like, okay, she's black, but she's one of the good ones because she's
But she doesn't
anti-Israeli.
like
Never
whites
mind.
either. She's like all about diversity and all that stuff. So
Yeah, but we're missing the point. The point is that if we are selecting based on values, right? We could figure out what those values are, and if somebody demonstrates, here's how you filter for it. You actually, the burden of proof should be on the person who's coming in. So we should not carry that burden and spend for figuring it out. We will assume that you're not a good fit until you, with your own effort and with your resources, not our country's resources, you have to go through a lot of tests and a lot of signals
listen,
to
I
us
like your
based on,
system. I'm
yeah,
with you. I like the system, but you're talking to
yeah.
people who are already very, very prejudiced. So your argument is like,
I'm
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to assume that they're rash. I'm talking to somebody that is rash. I'm trying to assume that maybe I'm getting it wrong and they are the rational ones,
well, okay, I'll
right?
tell you what their
To
argument, the rational argument against you would be, from that point of view, would be that they don't trust the so-called deep state to take care of this. They will allow people to get in that shouldn't.
okay,
But if yes,
what
if
the
your
fuck?
system was real, You probably convince a lot of them, yes, but you'd have to show
Yeah,
them like
I
that the
ag-
system like this ever
but
worked.
yeah, but I also agree that you need to shut down bringing in people if you cannot filter properly. But that doesn't require any assumption that the problem is the ethnicity. It doesn't negate my point.
Look, you convinced me a long time ago. The problem is convincing them.
So because are they really that retarded, or are we in an echo chamber? Because to me this
I
seems
think
obvious.
we are in our own echo chamber. I try a lot to listen to them to understand,
Yeah,
and I agree with some of their points, but I'm not racist in my nature, so I resist a lot of that stuff. But I can see where they're coming from. So it's like I can see that they see that the world is not how they want it. Okay, that's the starting point, and
it
then
just
they
seems
start
so
to figure it
obviously
out.
stupid. This is the problem. They make some good points about migration and people who are not a good fit in Western societies, and that's how they get you in. And then they all of a sudden dump a whole bunch of nonsense without evidence on top of that, right?
I agree with you. It's nonsense, but it's not stupid because Nick is very smart how he does it. So you can't say he's stupid. Tucker Carlson is not stupid. So
Yeah,
they're very manipulative and
they're
they
just
know how
taking
to play.
advantage of stupid people. But
Of
it's
course,
just very interesting. It's very interesting because on the points that they're right, they have so much evidence and they provide the evidence, right?
yeah.
They have a lot of stats and data, and they show how like how fucking wrong the left is, and they're so on point on that. And they have like they just bury you with all this good data and that you cannot deny. And then all of a sudden they go onto this race essentialist stuff, like where and they all of a sudden have nothing. Like they go from having so much evidence to having absolutely nothing at all.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything in particular, but I think they don't believe it's really possible to separate your identity from your values, particularly with the Jewish people. I think I would like to see an interviewer really expose how Nick's movement is really anti-Western. I mean, he calls his movement the America First movement, but it's very anti-American and it's very anti-Western.
Yes.
Yes, but nobody who interviews him is able to properly demonstrate that. Like I don't know why so many people have gotten so famous without learning to ask the right questions. Like how is it, like if I had a chance talking to him, I know what to ask. Like I know how to get him to, like at least to demonstrate to the audience that he's just talking out of his ass. Like he doesn't know a lot of the things that he's talking about with such level of confidence.
I wanted to ask, have you seen, the guy from Fashion Feet?
Yeah, I
He's
mean I
also,
don't follow them. Yeah.
no, but he's also one of these crazy anti Semites. He's actually from a Muslim background, he's Sudanese. And he had a debate with, I think it was Destiny, about this Israel thing. I'm just
Mhm.
responding to the point you made. They have no evidence. So he actually is very meticulous. He reads a lot of stuff, and after the debate, he published a long list of references for all the things he argued with Destiny. Now the references are to crazy stuff, okay, but they are references. So it's not like they don't have evidence, but their evidence is people like Finkelstein and all sorts of stuff like this, okay. But they do have evidence. The quality,
Okay, you need to zero in, zoom in on just one thing, right? Because if you say evidence that Israel commits genocide, of course there's a mountain of stuff that they call evidence that they could point out to, right? But I want a specific
yes,
trust evidence that shows that people's ethnicity, people's is the problem, not their culture, right? And I think
that's a very difficult thing to show evidence.
so. If
Either way,
because it's
that's the
impossible to
second.
show,
This has been an
yeah,
ongoing. This is called the blank slate argument, right?
right.
It's been an ongoing discussion among psychologists, sociologists, this sort of. I mean, and it is not. A lot of people believe in the blank slate, but I don't think it's true. Steven Pinker, I believe, wrote a book about this where he completely destroys this idea and shows. the evidence that there is a connection between. He doesn't say it explicitly, right? But it's implicit in what he says, because he himself is very much against racism, so he has to, play carefully. But yeah, have you ever seen any of Steven Pinker's contribution on this subject?
And I had Steven Pinker as a guest on my show.
He's amazing. I mean, he's one of the
Yeah,
most quoted people in his field. He's very good.
yeah.
So he
But
talks against the blank slate idea. So if you're against the blank slate, then genetics do dictate some portion of everything about you. So wouldn't it dictate also the culture that you develop? Or
well,
it's a difficult
not if
topic,
it's
really.
random. Yeah, not if it's randomized. You know what I mean? Not in a meaningful sense. So, for example, genetics does influence your intelligence, but it influences it from individual to individual in such a
Yes,
random that there's no significant difference from ethnicity to ethnicity if they are in the same environment. So for
I
example, the
think
lower average IQ among black people, that gap closes rapidly once they're in the same environment. Even though IQ is genetical, there is no genetic differences between ethnicities unless, for example, in Pakistan you have years of inbreeding. Then yeah, there you might see some genetic differences, but most of the time you don't have that.
there's an amazing IQ map of China. It's pretty amazing to look at. It almost looks like a weather map.
I just wanted to make a point regarding what Greg said, that they cannot separate their identity from their values. I actually agree. You can't separate your identities from your values. It's the racial identity that doesn't make sense. I think identities should be based on values, not based on your racial identity. Like I am a capitalist, I am a nationalist,
But
so
isn't
these
nationalism
Right,
based on identity?
right, but they're defining, I mean, group identity in a certain way, and you know,
group
they don't believe.
identities make, yeah,
Yeah,
group. So we have individual identities, like I'm a father, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, and we have group identities, and group identities are sometimes based on values or group belongings. Sometimes they're based on ethnic or racial, which doesn't make any sense to me, in my opinion. And I don't see why we would treat our racial identity as a collective, where we could treat our national identity as a collective, which is so much more productive. And your national identity could be based on common values, common practices, common traditions, rather than a common ethnicity. That's the most powerful way to have a shared group identity. And I think America did this. So I think this is why America became such a great country. Okay, because even though it started with the Europeans, it was open to anybody who was willing to come and build. So it became a land of opportunity, and it basically took the world's best from the world, because it was so open to anybody with the right ideas, anybody coming there to America to build America. And because it was based on ideals and not based on ethnicity, it was an experiment. That no other country was like that until America did this. And it was an experiment that ended up working and became the greatest country in the world because it was just open to accepting the best of the world, regardless of their background. I mean, I think Reagan has a really good quote about this. I can find it. I mean, Reagan is like a proper conservative.
I haven't fleshed this idea out yet, so I can't really articulate it very well. But I would like to see someone push Nick Fuentes, or really show how his views or his ideology is really, so it's anti-Western and it's anti-American, but specifically because the West in well, the Western civilization is based on the assumption that there exists objective truth and the existence of God. Like in America, it's in our Declaration that our rights come from God and they don't come from the state. Nick's views, and he claims to be Catholic. He is Catholic, but the way he wants to remake America is in a way that does away with the foundation of our civilization, which is that all people are created one by a higher power and that our rights come from God, and that we're all created equal because of that.
He acknowledges that. So I've seen him respond to that. He said, we're all, yes, we are equal in the eyes of God, but that doesn't mean that you have to live with me. Right? His idea is go be equal somewhere else. That's what he like. He said he
Yeah,
doesn't say,
not in my backyard.
yeah, like, yeah, we're all equal. You be equal with your people, I'll be
Somewhere else.
equal here with my people.
I wanted to respond to Greg because he's correct, in my opinion, that explaining how it's anti American is much better than calling it racist. An American is going to be better doing this than me, but I can throw in a few things that I do know and understand. So, just to help Greg, and maybe Greg will eventually do something or talk to someone. But I saw a very interesting interview with, I forget his name, but he explained something about this that's interesting that I didn't think about, which is the CCP analysis is of the situation because they're watching everything very, very closely. They think we don't have any history with the Jews. Like, there's been some very, very small number of Jews in China. They're not really an issue. When they were there, they didn't push their religion on anyone, which is what the CCP hates. That's why they are very worried about the Christians there and very worried about the Muslims, which is famous with the Uyghur or whatever it's called, the Uyghur Muslim. So China looks at the situation and their analysis is any country that hurt the Jews ended up suffering and throughout history. So in following the principles of how the Chinese fight, if you notice, Chinese don't like wars. How they want to defeat their enemies is by simply making them weak so that China can then enjoy a better, position for itself. It doesn't want to fight anyone. It knows that if others are weak, it can just take stuff. It doesn't need to fight for it. So they want to weaken America. And the best way to weaken America, in their view, is to have them fight over Jews because it will split Americans. It will cause a lot of divisions. That makes you weak by definition. And according to history, anyone who goes against the Jews fails. So this seems to be their strategy. And he says they truly believe this, and he heard a lot of them talking this talk. I'm sure that they know because this was an official KGB policy that using the Jews and the blacks in America is the best way to cause division between and weaken the other parties.
All right. So I
They've
have,
done
by
it.
the way, if you wanted to, I have 20 seconds video here. I want you to see, because if you want to
Yeah,
say
let's
Nick
go.
is anti-American, the best way to show he's anti-American is to quote Reagan, this powerful speech, just 20 seconds of it. And I mean, you don't get more American than Reagan. And given that he's like the god for conservatives, this is the best person to quote. So watch this.
You can go to live in France, but you cannot become a Frenchman. You can go to live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German, a Turk, or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American.
Perfect.
Yeah, but it
I don't know. I
doesn't
feel,
really do anything to them,
It
right?
doesn't resonate
Yeah.
too much, I have to say.
but
Yeah, I mean,
we could use this as a way to get other people who might consider this to be America first. I mean, you might say it doesn't resonate. To me, it resonates more than calling them racist.
but that you're not
It work.
them. you.
I mean, I'm angry at the guy. If I would need to debate him, it would probably end very quickly and by a knockout. So I'm not. I admit I don't have the best ideas
I know.
with Nick.
You just yeah, you know what? That's you're right. Like because at the end of the day, we also need to just express our. I mean, they got this big by having a place for people to be able to express their rage, and it worked out for them. I mean, they didn't always have the best arguments. So creating an environment where people could come and just like, you know what, maybe has its own appeal to attract more people to joining on your side. Right, actually. Sometimes you just need to say, you know what, fuck these motherfucking racist people.
Yeah, there's a
That's all you need
saying
to do.
that to
Yeah.
be friends for life, we don't need to have common interests. We need to have common hates.
Yeah, exactly. And what better group of people to hate than racists, I guess.
Can anyone explain why it doesn't, like, I think Armin's right that Fuentes would probably say, yes, we're all created equal, but you people should go be equal someplace else. Can anyone explain why that is contrary to his own values, to his own Christian values and in Western values? That's what I'm trying to
Uh,
do.
You're asking
from
an
our perspective,
ex-Muslim and bunch of Jews about
uh,
Nick's Christian values.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, so what? Basically, fundamentally, it's about God's will for us to be free. So these are Judeo-Christian values.
They
I
hate
mean,
that
there's
word.
nowhere.
He could. I think that if you would say something like that to Nick Fuentes, and so he could bullshit his way out of it, because the church was not always equal. The church, there was time and people in the church that was racist, so he will just clothe them.
So, Greg, are you are you talking about asking is your question about how to respond to him or understanding his perspective?
How to
Which one is your
expose
question?
him as not
Right.
legitimate.
So,
Yeah.
Greg's
so
point is that he's anti-America, he's anti-West, he's anti the core values of America. That's his point. He wants to demonstrate it
so
clearly.
so Greg, I think me and you might disagree on because I would if I me as somebody who thinks America is a great country because of Enlightenment values and the right Enlightenment values, because I think Europe went the wrong way and they choose the Rousseau type of Enlightenment values. And I think America went the more correct way and they picked John Locke's type of Enlightenment values, which I'm going to actually cover in my. So, the way that Europe and America differ is that when it comes to rights, Europe thinks that Europe's core philosophy is that rights are something that the government gives you. So you need the government to be involved to give you these rights. But America's understanding is that we already have these rights. We need the government to keep itself and others away from us so that we could continue having these rights. So I think the reason why I think we might disagree because I think maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong. As a Christian, I think Western countries are greater because of Christian values, or as you said, Judeo-Christian values. I mean, I look at other Christian countries in the world, like in South America or in Philippines and Christian countries in Africa, and I don't see as much advancement in those Christian countries as much as Western European and North American countries. So I attributed more to the Enlightenment values rather than Christian. I mean, I know they have connections and they influence one another to some extent, but I think mostly the Age of Enlightenment produced a certain way of looking at political philosophy that produced how advanced Western society is. And America got the best selection. If you read the Declaration of Independence of the United States, it basically is a copy of John Locke's ideology, right? So that's what I think makes it better. And there's nothing in any of that. And because America was founded based on those ideals, none of that involves keeping people separated based on their ethnicity. It does. In fact, it goes against that. It's merit based.
Right.
Actually, saying the merit argument is a way for the elite to keep being, what's the word, when you give jobs to your friends and family. There's a word for it. I forget.
Nepotism.
Yes, exactly. So they're saying it's merit, but actually the Jews are giving each other jobs, and other groups are taking care of. That's what they're saying, and that's why it's unfair. And they feel that the white Christian male has been under attack, which is true. So arguments about liberalism, liberal values you have to appeal to them, I think, with conservative values, I think.
So here's the thing. I would want these people to demonstrate with any evidence why keeping people separate from each other benefits anybody. Like, have you
Oh,
guys seen
it's
them up
possible it's easy to show.
Yeah.
It's actually easy to
based on
show.
ethnicity? Based on ethnicity.
If you, well, yes, if you assume that ethnicities and culture are
No,
connected.
without making any assumptions, I want
Well,
evidence that keeping Jews
this
with
is,
each other,
I
keeping
understand.
Africans with each other, keeping white people with each other, keeping Japanese with each other. Like, I would think as a nationalist, if I'm a nationalist, what I
Mhm.
want for my nation is to go steal their best from them, not to keep us
Yes,
separate. I want to go find. I want to basically keep their lowest of their low for them, and go
okay,
find their best of their people and try to do everything to steal them from those society, from those nations, and bring them to my nation. That would
yes, I
be the most
understand.
nationalist thing to do. So instead of
Yes.
like keeping them away, I would want to steal their best.
Okay, so in Israel, for example, maybe I can relate to this a little better. We don't care if there's some Japanese who's a genius and he wants to come to Israel. What we care about is he Jewish, right? They want to be a
That's not
bit like
true.
the way it is, because if you want to immigrate
No,
to Israel, be
but that's
Jewish
that's a response.
is,
No. That's a
He can do it
response to.
without the right of return. Well,
Yeah. Okay. The right of return is
but
not
that's, if
is
he's
a
Jewish,
response.
he doesn't have to be a genius. He could be
Do you want?
anybody.
Okay, let me know when I can respond to this because I have an answer to this. Okay,
Go. So
we're mixing two separate things. Okay, one is getting the best people to come to my country to contribute to my country. Another is protecting a group of people that are being targeted, and we are doing this to protect them. Right. So
that's how they feel.
Israel. Yes, but that is a different thing that you're doing. Like, that is two different missions, right? So we shouldn't be mixing these with each other. These are two
On to them,
different
their
good
point of
causes.
view. I
So
mean, so they will
yeah,
say,
but
we are under
I don't
attack.
see
We want our protection. We want
where
our Israel. That's what they're
are we
saying.
at. Do we have? Yeah, I don't
That's what
care
they're
what they're
saying.
saying. I'm talking. But I'm asking, can they prove that? I mean,
They can prove that they're
okay,
under attack. Yes.
okay. Where in America you're talking about anti-white racism?
Yes.
Okay, so we should basically make them leave America. Based on that logic, they should go to your. So if we're saying, based on that logic, if Jews are leaving places that are anti-Jewish to go to Israel, and if we're
Yeah.
saying in America people are being anti-white racist, then they should leave America and go to Europe based on that argument. Okay.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. So we should make America less white based on this argument.
Right.
You know,
One thing
Makes
that
total
Nick
sense.
said in his interview with Pierce Morgan, he said that this group identity politics game that he's playing is largely, a backlash or an opposition to the progressive game of identity politics. And I think the reasonable question to ask would be, well, why would you play the same game as those who you know are wrong? Yeah. Well, so Nick said in his interview with Pierce Morgan, he acknowledged that the identity politics game that he's playing is in opposition to the progressive identity politics game that's been played for the past years, right? Attacking
Yeah.
attacking white people, right? White males. And so he's saying, yeah, we're fighting against
Okay.
that. But so I think
Yeah,
the
but
question would then be like, why would you play the same game?
well, because
No,
it's
it's
not the same
simple.
game.
It-
No, 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 no. But here's the thing, because he's not against identity politics. The right
No, he's
way to
not.
play identity. Yeah. Okay. So let me answer. Okay. So the right way to play, to, in his opinion, to play identity politics is for white people to protect white people, Jewish people to protect Jewish people, Japanese people to protect Japanese people, Muslims to protect Muslims, Arabs to protect Muslims. Right? He thinks it's retarded for white people to be against white people. Like, he thinks that the retarded way of playing identity politics, which he is against, which is actually what he's most, and he thinks nobody else is doing this. Like, you don't see Japanese people, you don't see Arab people, but you do see anti-white people. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with us? Like, that's what he thinks. Like, he thinks, like, why are we not doing what other people are doing and protecting their own people? Like, you're supposed to, like, he thinks that this white people, some of them are playing identity politics in a retarded way. They are the only people that for some reason are playing identity politics against their own people. Which is, he's
Right.
right
Mm.
about that.
So
I've never seen
you
this.
know something?
Yeah.
So if he's got a problem with this topic, so he
Yeah.
should be mad at the Qataris for funding all of this bullshit ideologies in the universities, not the Jews. Refer him to the Qatari lobby.
the reason he talks about Jews is simple prejudice. It's an easy target. It plays well. You get a lot of clicks, and it's
Yeah,
basically
right. Yeah,
Is it that?
but if anti-white racism is what gets to him, so he should talk to the Qataris. He should be mad at the Qataris.
and the Chinese
So,
and the Russians.
but their idea, okay, this is actually a very interesting point, because where do they get this from? Because their idea is that all this anti-white nonsense in America is because Jews are encouraging it. Where do they get that from?
Many of the people who promoted these ideas were Jews.
But Jews are everywhere.
Yes.
We're not
So
in
you're gonna
Pakistan
see
or
huh?
Syria.
No, I mean everywhere in America. So anything
Well,
bad happens, you could find Jews. Anything bad happens, you could see Jews being involved in it. Anything good happens, you could find Jews that are involved in it,
Are we in
because they're part
Oklahoma?
of
I don't think we're in Oklahoma.
Oh my god. Okay.
secular Jews in America do tend to buy into progressivism. So it's like they're very different than Jews in Israel. They're kind of removed from reality, and they buy into the progressive game of identity politics.
Yeah,
They
some Jews
actually,
need to shut
they
the fuck up.
actually, the political views of Jews in America are exactly the same as white people in the same status. So same education, same type of income.
Is it because they're secular, or is it because they're leftists? Because I do know a lot of secular people who are properly patriotic and anti-shitty values like Islamism or progressivism.
They
I feel
also
like you can only
reform.
be so
They have
far
different.
left until you stop losing some patriot, because like America is the vanguard of capitalism.
I mean,
What
they
do you
also
mean?
reformed all of them.
But we have secular Jews that are extremely capitalistic, extremely patriotic, it's
Yeah, those are an
extremely
extremely far left.
Zionist. Hmm?
Yeah, but they're not extremely far left then.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's not a, yeah, okay, that's my point. It's not about being secular, it's about being far left. Like, far leftist Jews are like this, not secular Jews.
The most formidable people when it comes to debates about these issues, some of the most impressive debaters that argue for the other side, for the lefty woke side, are Jews. They're very good at it, right?
But that's not fair to blame the Jews
It's not
because
fair,
Jews are
no.
yeah, because Jews are just good at debate. They would be good at debating both sides of this argument. Yeah. Are there does Nick have a lot of Jew fans? Because he claims that he has a lot of Jewish fans. He
Where's
claims
Yes,
the
that.
Jewish fans?
he has
Jewish
some.
I think
fans.
he says Jewish fans or friends.
He has Jewish fans,
Fans.
yes. Yes.
Fans.
Yeah.
Yes.
He when he goes to places, he has black people coming in and celebrating him, asking him for signature, and Jews coming and asking him for signature, women who he said will be, and also Muslims. He has Muslim
There's a clip.
fans.
There's a clip of a Jewish guy walking past him and Destiny eating outside in Miami, if you haven't seen it. And the Jewish guy says to him, "Hey, you're Nick Fuentes." And he says, "Hey, hey." He says, "Yeah, I'm Jewish, but I'm not one of these Talmudic Jews. You can trust me," kind of thing.
Talmudic Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is how it used to be like. This is how they get you. Now it's like, hey, I'm Jew, but I'm not Talmudic Jew. So I don't know
One
what the next step is going to be.
That's
maybe, but
that's some Jew crowism bullshit. That's I'm trying to be a pet. I don't like that at all.
of course I don't like it, but I'm just reporting. It exists.
Khalid wanted to say something. I saw him raising his hand.
Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of these groups think they're American because for them they think white and America is connected. In reality, it's not like that. And all these groups think that to be a true American is to assimilate yourself with white people. That's what they think. But that's not American idea. American ideas are liberty and freedom and equality. That's the American way. Or this.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. America was founded based on we're looking at merit, not anything else. That was the whole point of America.
Yeah, and that's
But
what
the
I'm
same
trying.
merit idea is corrupted by outside groups that have a group coherence that outsmarts the merit system. And that's why Jews are in positions of power, for example, because they all help each other, and this idea, that's how it works. So they say, yeah, merit is, yeah, it's good, but it's not working because of all these groups. If we just were white, then we can have a merit system.
Oh, Greg, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just going to reiterate my same point. The American way is based on liberty and freedom and the belief that all people are created equal. And I'm just trying to show how Nick's ideal, the way he wants to reshape our country in a way that makes policy based on race, is antithetical to the most fundamental American values, considering he calls his movement the America First movement.
He
Trying
wants
to,
to
trying
abolish
to,
part of the Constitution. I mean, he said that.
yeah, yeah.
All right,
Okay,
that's a good example for you not being freaking American, isn't it?
I want to suggest something, because the argument you're making, Greg, is kind of, they'll say, well, we don't like these principles, they're not working anymore, or whatever. I think one good argument is to show how it's bad for America from a financial and geopolitical point of view. So, will Americans be richer or poorer if they follow Nick's ideas? Will they be stronger in the world, more influential or less influential? Will they have more threats or less threats? I'm going to be safe.
But
I'm going to have more money.
I think he will lose some people, though,
Oh, yeah.
if he's forced to really say what he believes in that regard, in terms of how he wants to change America. Because he kind of softens himself and he dances around it a little bit. And he's like, he was asked a question, I forget who asked it. I was watching some interview, and he said, the question was, all right, let's pretend you're the president of America. What would you want to get rid of Jewish people or all these different races?
God,
And his
I was
question was, well,
He said he wants to execute them. Well, he said
What
that
will
they do
happen?
sorcery and they need to be executed, the ones who do sorcery.
My fear is not that Nick will become president, but that in order to get voted, someone like J.D. Vance will maybe make the relationship with Israel less good for us. For example, we'll make it, it will kind of just incorporate a little bit of Nick's ideas and hope that they will get some votes.
Yeah, I think that's a very serious threat.
America became America with the Declaration of Independence. And right at the beginning of the second paragraph, we have this famous line that it says, "We hold these truths to be self evident, that all men are created equal." Like it starts, like America started by talking about the equality between all men. Like the
Yeah, you
state.
say we need to change that. Okay.
So what is he? Okay, so if he's saying that, like what would, like, put yourself in his shoes? What is it about America that he likes then? Like, what is
That
it?
it's
Like, how is he American?
that it's European and Christian.
But that's not what makes America America. Like, we can see the things that made America America.
He
The
thinks
How
Boston
that,
is that
Tea
America?
Party happened for a reason. I don't think that they want to be part of the Europe, white, whatever.
but that's the way. That's what they want now. They don't care about the Tea Party. They're different people with different ideas. They're not Protestants. They're Catholic, most of them, etc.,
So
etc.
how does oh yeah, so actually that's a good point. If he thinks America should be white because Americans were mostly white, then why does he shouldn't America be Protestant? He wants a Catholic theocracy. Most Americans
I
were
didn't say he was
Protestant.
consistent. He just wants it the way he wants it, okay? And everything is just reasoning around it.
So he doesn't want America. He wants like
No.
based on what we're saying, like he wants Nick Fuentes's
Yes.
Yeah,
republic.
he
Like,
just wants his needs like fulfilled. His
but how would he respond if you point this out to him that this is not America that you're defending? You're just
I
defending.
would. I
Well,
think
actually,
that
I shouldn't
maybe.
say republic. It's a theocracy. Yeah.
I think that
Yeah, I think
maybe
that's a good
it.
question.
I think that maybe it would be beneficial in that case to attack his utopia. If we are to divide in the manner and in the fashion that Nick Fuentes described, what would happen in America would basically start as a war to eliminate either colors, but these things never end because when you start this division, it will very quickly deteriorate from color to original ethnicities, Irish, German, and so on. Being white will not be enough because I don't think that countries unite themselves over colors. European countries fought other European countries over years. They were both white. So I think that this utopia will shoot itself in the head if it will reach real ground.
One good question is like, okay, but based on what you want to bring, you want a Christian theocracy. Can you demonstrate to us that working? Like American values were based on something else, and they became the greatest nation on earth. You want a Christian theocracy. Do you have an example of that working better than what America did? Like these are the questions that we need to be asking. Like, why is oh my god, I want to debate him. I don't
Yeah,
think they would survive these questions. Yeah.
If he
People
debates
in
a
the Vatican seem
knowledgeable
happy.
Israeli, he'll be destroyed.
Are they happy in the Vatican?
that's
Vatican
good.
is like more of a city state protected by Rome as protected
But
by
that's
like Italy,
but it
and
is a Catholic
it's just like
theocracy.
is it?
One of the
It's
reasons
not like
we have freedom of religion in the United States, the way I understood it, the way I understand it, what I was taught by a Catholic priest is that because this is, God wants us to be free. So in America, we believe that everybody should be free. If we're not free, we can't make our own decisions. And that's why we have freedom of religion.
that's why I want to show. I want. They need to show this. We have better. This is what we have. We don't have principles because if you said this is good, well, like, they're going to say, well, no, that is good. What we have that we should be using is demonstrating the consequences because America has a good record of what ideas work. You don't have that evidence for what your ideas. You could basically demonstrate, look, these were the values and this is the result.
And
Show
what if
me
he say,
show me what you got.
And what if you say that no country was trying to work and establish itself around the idea of being white?
We have had countries trying to become, we have other countries that have identities based on ethnicities. None of them became as powerful and as great as America, right? America was an experiment centered around the idea of making a country based on a methodology and a set of values. And that experiment has demonstrated to be successful.